you started decorating for Christmas more than 3 days ago, we need to have a word.
Yep. Well played. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Cross-Checking. I'm one of your hosts, Josh Laborious. That wonderfully gravelly voice you heard coming on at the beginning is Pastor Ben Olschlager out there in Lake Orion, Michigan. I imagine he's colder than I am today.
It's actually kind of nice here. It's like mid-40s, sunny. It got a little overcast more lately, but pretty nice. I'll take it.
You just said it's pretty nice mid-40s.
Yeah. So here's the
Incorrect.
thing. When you
it's
grow
82
up,
degrees here today.
When you grow up in a fridge, like that's the entire state of Minnesota. When you grow up in a fridge, you get used to it, and then like you kind of enjoy the cold.
You just told me that you have Stockholm syndrome, but for weather.
It's more like Bane. The cold made me.
You merely adopted the cold.
Yes.
Oh, welcome, folks. We are still in between seasons right now. If you have been listening, if you're a first-time listener, welcome. This is kind of just the whatever, the fill-in before we release season.
This is like season 7.5
or 8.5. We just finished season 8, so it'd be weird to backtrack like that. But welcome for our returning listeners. Welcome back. We're going to continue in kind of this mini series we're doing in between before we get back to a more organized and lengthy season and talk about some holidays. Our last episode was about Thanksgiving. Hopefully you listened to that, and as you listen to this, you have enjoyed some turkey or ham or whatever you had on Thanksgiving. Enjoyed some time with family and or friends. But now we're on to Advent. And Ben is exactly right. It is now appropriate to have decorations up. It is now okay. Before Thanksgiving? No. That's actually the only episode, I don't know about you, Ben. It's the only episode of our show that I have ever gotten someone legitimately upset with me over. Because I don't know if you remember, years ago at this point, we did an episode essentially saying it was wrong to decorate before Thanksgiving. And the approach I think we took was like, let Advent have its place. Keep Christmas like where it should be as a special festival. I think we even looped in, it's because we like to think of baby Jesus and not table flippy Jesus. And that's why we like Advent so much. And I had someone who was actually legitimately angry with me because she's like, I need Christmas decorations. And it was, so we're back at it again, making jokes about that, but that's not what our episode is about today. Today, we're just going to talk about the season of Advent, which is, for anyone who is unfamiliar, who doesn't really pay attention, or if you're from a non-liturgical church, Advent is the essentially the period leading up to Christmas. Sometimes starts on. Wait a second.
What? Would you?
I'm thinking through the math here. It's 4 weeks leading up to Christmas, which does mean the first day in Advent changes because it's 4 Sundays, right? Because Sunday the 30th is the first Sunday of Advent.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not a big church calendar guy, in case you couldn't pick up based on how I fumbled that. So
yeah, the length of Advent changes technically every year, but yeah,
because it doesn't start 28 days before Christmas.
No, it's roughly.
It starts 4 Sundays before Christmas.
It's usually roughly a month. It's somewhere between 20, I think 28, 29 is the least that you can have. No, sorry, 22 is the least that you can have, because you can have 3 Sundays and then Christmas Day can be a Monday.
Yes.
Yeah. So when that happens, your the season of Advent is only 22 days, but on the long end, then it can be 29 days. So
Yep.
I guess just shy of a month.
Which, side note for you folks, Christmas on a Monday is rough for a preacher. Because if your Christmas is on a Monday, that means that Wednesday there's an Advent service if you still do midweek services, and then you have Christmas Eve. You have the fourth Sunday in Advent in the morning, and then you have Christmas Eve services in the evening, and then you have Christmas Day service the next day. So in 5 days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you have 4 different sermons to preach. So
I mean, it's pretty equivalent to Holy Week.
that's true. That is true. Which, I mean, Holy Week it's a lot for a preacher. Unless if you've been to one of my Good Friday services, I don't do a sermon on Good Friday. We just do a very intentional reading of the text and then a series of different confessions built in, which isn't, I guess it's kind of sermonic, but it's not quite a sermon. Anyway.
Did you just invent a word there, Josh?
I think so. Someone might have tried it before, but they were like, oh, that sounds too much like demonic. We're going to leave that one be.
That's also what my head went to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments if you approve of the word sermonic. But then,
also,
so
in the comments, somebody should just start the dictionary of Josh and Ben.
yikes.
We create words either intentionally or unintentionally.
That will be our second piece of merchandise.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll publish the dictionary of Josh and Ben, and it'll just be a whole bunch of pages of nonsense. But what's not nonsense is the season of Advent, which, 7 minutes in, we'll start talking about it now. So Ben, what are your favorite parts of Advent? What stands out to you, and what is maybe the most meaningful part of the season for you?
So I'm going to start with my least favorite part of Advent,
which I didn't ask about, so whatever.
No. But my least favorite part of Advent is hymns. We have like half a dozen really good ones. And I know there's some people who really like Advent hymns.
And you have to make half a dozen stretch over. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So I apologize to my congregation and to most congregations in Synod that you're either going to have to sing crummy hymns, like not necessarily like they're theologically rich, but the tunes are just tough.
And that's coming from a choir kid.
Yeah, that is coming from a choir kid. Combined, my years of band, choir, and piano probably almost triple my age. So, like, I'm fairly musically proficient, and I still don't like our Advent hymns. There's a few bangers. We've got like "Savior of the Nations Come," "O Come, Emmanuel."
One. "Oh Come All Ye Faithful" is a good one.
That's a Christmas hymn.
Oh, whatever.
Here, I've got the hymnal up. Yeah, we're doing this mid-show. Come thou long expected Jesus. That's a good one. Prepare the royal highway. Hark the glad sound. Yeah, that's basically my whole list.
What Ben is also trying to do is get one of those stuck in all of your heads. So
comfort ye my people is also pretty good.
Enjoy that Advent hymn ringing in your ears for the rest of this episode.
Yeah, and if you do get one stuck in your head, tell me which one so that I can know which ones I need to play more. Yeah, so that's my least favorite part. I would love if somebody more musically capable than I, with more time than I, would go through the hymns in the hymnal and set them to just more
More
singable,
singable
tunes.
tunes.
Yeah, that would make me so happy. You have no idea. Anyway,
We as a synod should release the musically illiterate's version of the hymnal. Like take all the hymns and the ones that are hard to sing, reset them to easier to and that be the hymnal for me, honestly. Well, and for most congregations.
Yeah, and I think okay, so this is an aside to an aside to an aside here, but like,
which never happens for you, those of you who are new listeners. We never do this. This is a very strange and anomalous episode. It doesn't usually happen like this.
so my aside to an aside to an aside is that I think I think that musically our culture has changed enough that it's no longer feasible, not necessarily feasible, it's no longer practical to just teach people hymns. Because the kind of music that we spend a lot more time listening to is so much more different from the hymns that we sing in church on Sunday, that we're getting to a point in terms of like the musical difference where like we're trying to teach people a new musical language basically as we teach them hymns.
Well, and this is a conversation that maybe comes into play a couple different places, but you have to ask yourself, is the job of the church to make sure people can sing musically in a certain style? Or is this a place where maybe we simplify our hymn tunes? I actually have a similar thought with sometimes when we get into Bible study and literacy is not what it once was. And like, no offense to anyone if you're offended by this that says some other things, but like the educational level of the average person, educational standards are not what they once were. Right now, the work you have to put in to get a master's degree, as far as like the actual academic legwork you got to put in, several decades ago, might have only gotten you a bachelor's, right? And sometimes we lament that in the church and we're like, oh, we wish we could dive into X, Y, or Z. But it's worth keeping in mind the church is not like, our goal is not literacy and education. Our goal is literacy and education insofar as it supports discipleship. So whether it's hymns or literacy or any number of other things, like we got to keep the main thing. And we can pursue these other things as long as they are in service to discipleship. Spoiler for next season. Anyway, so what is your favorite thing about Ben? The question about Advent. What's your favorite thing about Ben? I'd love to hear. I'd love to see how that gets answered.
We'll leave it at that, and then next time remind me to ask the listeners their favorite thing about you. You're not going to do that, so I have to remember that on my own now.
I will. I'll try. Okay.
So, I think my favorite thing about Advent, genuinely, is that it gives us an opportunity to think about what it would have been like to live before Jesus. Because I think as Christians, we often take that for granted. We take for granted that we know God sent his son into the world to live among us, to be God with us. I mean, that's the name Emmanuel. That's what we sing about in a hymn that I know we're going to use at least twice here at Good Shepherd. 3 times if you come to Advent by candlelight, maybe a 4th if you come to the Advent services. So get ready for it. Just know it's coming. But like, I think as we ponder that, it helps put us a little bit better in the shoes of the Israelites and the people of Judah as they were waiting for Messiah to come. And just to understand how groundbreaking it was for God to come to earth in the way that he did. The incredible depth of love that exists there, the incredible, like, just willingness that God had to humble himself and walk among us. And for people who are hopefully looking forward for that, I I think that's pretty awesome. And I kind of like the unique flavor of each week of Advent too. And I know this is something we touched on. Like we actually did like 10 seconds of prep for this episode, believe it or not. This is something we talked about wanting to talk about. Is like we have these different unique themes of like what God's people were experiencing before Jesus, and how now we experience these same things as we prepare for Jesus' return, because we know Messiah's come. But yeah, that's, I guess, my two favorite things. How about you, Josh?
Oh, I think personally my favorite part about Advent is is actually the midweek services, because I just remember growing up, they always felt restful. Like it was something else we were doing, right? It's something that adds to your schedule, but I just remember feeling like it was a little moment of peace in otherwise very busy and hectic weeks.
Mm-hmm.
There's just
Did yours
something,
come with a
and
dinner? Did yours come with a
yeah,
dinner?
and the dinner. Well, and this is something that like kind of still sticks with me. There's something almost romantic, not in like a love sense, just in like a whatever else sense. There's something romantic about being in the church at night and taking that time for worship during the week. So I think personally that's it. I think on a like as someone in church work, I think one of the biggest values for Advent is just that it helps keep us from taking Christmas for granted, because it's something that it gives us time every year to we see it coming and we think it, so it's not like Christmas surprises us and it's just like a flash in the pan and then it's gone. It gives us some time to think about it beforehand. And it also helps us not lose Christmas and everything else that has become connected with the holiday season. It's something, it brings a little bit more intentionality to it, because there is, I mean, the true meaning of Christmas sometimes does get lost, but and what Christmas movies will teach you is that don't get lost in all the materialism. Christmas is about the love of neighbor, or Christmas is about family. It is it's worth reminding you, no. Christmas is about Jesus. The other stuff comes with it is cool. The family's cool. The altruism that often comes with Christmas is cool. Lights are cool, gifts are cool, trees are cool. But Christmas is about Jesus. So here's my first of what will probably be many over the next 4 to 5 weeks. You should be in church on Christmas morning. Period. I hope I'm not undermining Ben not having a Christmas Day service. I hope we're on the same page here.
Normally we do. I didn't this year because my wife is expecting 2 days after Christmas. Like our due date's 2 days after Christmas. So we
That's
kept
fair.
our schedule a little bit later because there's only so many times that we can get the retired pastors in the area to fill in. So this year, for logistical reasons, we didn't. But normally we do. And it's one of my favorite services of the year when we do it. Because how often do you get to say ass in church? Like,
that's the most Ben reason for anything I've ever heard.
It's also, what child is
I got
this?
a Family Guy clip to send you a little. I'll send it to you later.
Okay. But also, what child is this? My favorite hymn in the hymnal. and I'm not sure that I'm going to get a chance to sing it this year because
Well, and my thing is, so many people. Well, I go on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that enough? I'm like, you could.
Can you ever get too much Jesus?
Can you ever get too much? Can you ever have too much church? No, is the answer to that. Is the correct answer to that question. But the other things people say, like people have shared with me over the years, that this is the reason they're not going to church on Christmas Day. Well, I have family traditions. It's like, so on Jesus's birthday, your family tradition is more like you can't make room for a 45-minute service. They're typically not very long services. Like, and they're typically even held late enough that you can still do like early morning Christmas. Like, this is what my family did growing up. We opened the gifts before church because all the kids were up way too early anyway. And then we got ready, we went to church, and then we went home. So go to church on Christmas Day. There is Ben's excuse is in the very small circle of actually acceptable excuses.
Yeah, and here, if you're around, we're advertising our sister churches over at Crown of Life and St. John Rochester. Both have
go hang out
Christmas
with the
Day
circuit
services.
homies.
Yeah, go hang out with the circuit homies. Like we're not doing it for the logistical reasons. Normally I love to, but go hang out with the circuit friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this from Hope, I'll best see you that 25th, 10:30. Otherwise, I will be judging. I might not say anything, but I'm going to notice. If we have 600 on Christmas Eve and we have 60 on Christmas Day, Pastor might have something to say. It's going to be sassy. Best come correct. So Advent helps us not get lost in everything else. Little fun fact that I learned because of my stoles. Advent, for many of you who are in Lutheran churches, you'll say, what's the color for Advent? It's blue. That has not always been the case. Used to be purple. In fact, in a lot of conservative Catholic churches especially, it's still purple because it's a penitential season, like Lent is. The reason I learned this is because I have stoles, and I love my stoles. My parents got me my stoles for my ordination, but there's not a blue one because it's from a conservative Catholic company and they don't make blue Advent stoles. So it's actually a little bit of a problem because I really like them and I want the Advent one to kind of match. So I actually I looked in vain on the internet, and finally there's a lovely lady in our congregation who does embroidery. So she's embroidering my blue Advent stole for me, and we're gonna have our blue stole. But so the color for Advent is blue because we like to look at it as more hopeful than penitential. Well, there's maybe a little bit of both in there. And there are 4 weeks, and we have these lovely Advent wreaths that most churches have. I think I don't know if I've actually ever been to a church that didn't still have some
we don't have a
iteration
wreath,
of an Advent wreath.
but
Do you have 4 candles?
Yeah. And then there's garland in front of them, so it kind of looks wreath-esque.
Okay, so it's a deconstructed Advent wreath, which is still cool. Like, I can dig it. Very hip of you. You could serve it at a fancy restaurant and charge $500 for it.
No, it doesn't have foam on it.
I didn't need that in my life. I didn't. Anyway. So we have these 4 candles, and kind of we're going to walk through these themes for the 4 weeks of Advent alongside the candles. That's something I might make an Advent wreath for our home. That seems like a cool thing for me to build in the good old shop / garage. But the first week is the first candle is often called the prophecy candle, representing hope and the prophecies about the coming Messiah.
I mean, we spend the first week of Advent oftentimes looking back at, like, I think this year, the first week of Advent, we go to Isaiah and we look at the passage about the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, call his name Emmanuel. Might be the last week, but we get some of these great prophecies around the coming of Messiah and the things that he will come to do. And that's just a lot of fun. Like, we look back at a people who are in desperate hope that something greater would come because they did not love life, being constantly run over by the Egyptians, then the Assyrians, then the Babylonians, then the Persians, and then Alexander the Great, and then the Romans, and then the Romans again, then the Romans again. And then
And if there was any gap in there, the Philistines and the other raiding tribes kind of filled in.
Yeah. I was going to try and get all the way to modern day, but you get the point. Like,
yeah.
The people of God wanted...
They're like, okay.
Yeah, the people of God wanted something more solid. They wanted something that would help them be established as a people. And they were looking forward to a different kind of king, but Jesus very much answered that hope. And now, like, we as a people of hope, like, we see the hope that they had, and it kind of mirrors the hope that we have, that, like, hey, there is someday going to be a kingdom more permanent than the kingdoms of this world that we get to look forward to. And that's something else that I think Advent does for us, is it gives us an opportunity to look back at the people who were waiting for Messiah to come the first time, and now look forward to Messiah coming back.
Yeah. I think something cool you could, and for anyone in my congregation, no, I'm not doing it this year. I have other sermon themes already picked out. But I think something cool you could do on this week is almost go through the Old Testament and do a kind of checklist. Like, say, look at all these prophecies of the Messiah, and there are a lot of them. It would be a longer sermon. And then look at how Jesus checks all of those boxes. Like, he fulfills all of the prophecies in a way that no one else does, and no one else will, honestly. Because there are something where there will be like individual prophecies where someone will fulfill, who will also fit into the description of a prophecy. Jesus is the only one who fulfills all of them. So that's week 1, the Hope Week. AI says it's typically a purple candle color because that's the quote unquote traditional liturgical color for Advent. You also see a lot of blue, and then sometimes you'll see a variety of very hip colors, to go along with the deconstructed Advent wreaths.
Ours are blue. We're boring.
It's a good color.
It is a good color.
Yeah.
Second week is often a week of peace. And it's like the second candle is often associated with the town of Bethlehem. Think of the hymn, "O Little Town of Bethlehem." You got this quiet little backwater of a city living in the shadow of the city of Jerusalem, about 5-6 miles up the road. Not an extension of Jerusalem by any means, but like this is a little quiet town. The kingly line of David came from there, but at the point in which Jesus was born, it wasn't that significant a city. And from this humble little town comes a king whose mission is peace. And we recognize that, we remember that. And somehow in his wake, everywhere that Jesus went, unrest, violence seemed to follow, not because of what he did, but because the kind of radical peace that he preaches annoys the snot out of people and makes them go feral.
Yeah. Well, and you get
then he has to come out and turn tables over.
Yeah, the unrest is so often the reaction to the peace, which is, just so typical of of the world.
Yeah,
this is something that
ruined it.
Yeah, this is something that aligns, I think, with some of that. What my favorite part of Advent is, because that's, I mean, when I think, especially because and I know this isn't right, but it is what it is. When you say Advent, I first and foremost think Advent midweek services. And I think that's because as a kid, that's what Advent meant to me, is it meant we were going to church on Wednesday night instead of whatever else we did. Okay. So I acknowledge that Advent is bigger than just the midweek Wednesday services, and they are not the be all end all. But in my head, when I think of Advent, what I think of most is those midweek services. And I think those services are incredibly peaceful. And it's actually going to be for us. And I don't know what Ben's doing for the midweeks, but that's our thematic focus that we're going to look at is trying to make the services a moment of peace in a season that, especially for families and for parents, is insanely busy. Because you have all the Christmas stuff, the decorations, the gifts, the planning for family and friends and whatever else. But then you also, if you're a parent or you're a kid or you have grandkids that you're really involved with their lives, it's the end of the semester. So you have a ton of stuff that comes along with that. If you're a student, you have finals. Like, there's just, December is kind of the end of so much sports season, school stuff, the quarter, the tax year. So everybody has something extra added on. So those midweeks are great. We're going to try and make those midweeks as much as we can a breath of air. And that's, of all of the themes for the weeks, the peace week for me is the most, I most tightly associate that with Advent. Also, purple or blue or whatever traditional. It's the same color as the first candle. But the third candle is different. And there are people who will try and give it different labels. It is a pink candle.
It's rose.
It's pink.
It's
what?
Rose.
No, it's pink. It's pink.
Jesus didn't pink from the dead.
You know what you did. I really hope that the software doesn't cut that pause out. It was important. Send you to timeout. Because roses are red, Benjamin, and the candle is not red, it's pink. Pink. It's the shepherd's candle. It represents joy and rejoicing, the anticipation of Jesus' arrival. So week 3 is joy. Woo!
Josh, our Marlin roses are only red because we selectively bred them to be so.
Yeah, and your ancestors clearly selectively bred the intelligence out of your line.
That was pretty solid.
Oh, I'm pretty happy with that one.
The kind of joy that we're talking about here, though, is not the kind of joy that Josh and I are getting from roasting each other right now.
No.
Even though Josh knows he's wrong.
Nothing I've said in the last 40 seconds has been incorrect.
As he continues
for anyone who's listening to the audio and not watching the video, he's also wearing a wild shirt. So obviously, the hamster wheel is spinning and the hamster is dead.
Says the guy whose hamster wheel is currently inhabited by a dead catfish.
That's true. But also, the wheel is on fire, so maybe we'll get some good grilled catfish. Anyone who's listening who doesn't really follow hockey is like, these guys have to be on some sort of drugs. We're not. This is just us.
Yeah. Josh is just a fan of a really bad hockey team. And I tried to make my subtitle on the video today the fan of the better bad hockey team. Because
That's a
currently
tricky
accurate.
grammatical sentence because that could also be read as they're better at being bad, like they were tanking. Anyway, so the joy that Ben is referring to, it's something that Christians talk about a fair bit, and it's really hard to nail down. And if you're not a believer, it can be kind of hard to put a definition on it because it is something. A lot of times we'll compare it with happiness because it's joy is something that persists in spite of circumstances, and it's rooted in this reality that we know at the end of all things we're saved and that we have paradise waiting for us. And in that there is this persistent joy and there's this emotion, the state of existence that comes from the knowledge that the God of all creation loved you enough to die for you, loved you enough to send his son for you. And that's where the joy of the Advent season especially comes from, is we're looking, this is how much God loved us, that he sent his son into a time in the world where they hadn't invented air conditioning yet for us.
In a very warm part of the world.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I do have an air conditioning vent right over me, and the air conditioning is on. Because like I said at the beginning of the episode, it is 82 degrees outside here in Friendswood, Texas.
I, again, would still rather live in Michigan, where come next summer, I won't need to worry about my parking lot turning into a frying pan.
But how else are you going to do cool experiments with eggs?
By traveling
So you're
to come
saying if
see
I
you,
wanted an
I'm gonna need
associate,
it.
I shouldn't, we shouldn't include your name on the list?
Huh?
You're saying if I wanted an associate, we wouldn't include your name on the list? Is that what you're
Josh,
telling me
I
right
would
now?
show up and then melt.
Yeah. You'd show up and then what?
Melt.
You'd be fine. It's not even that bad.
I would melt. And also my congregation would rebel.
Fair point. Your
Yeah,
joy doesn't come from Ben's beard. It comes from Jesus.
that's a good point.
That's a
point.
good. Put that on a T-shirt. Actually, that'd be. Put a silhouette of your beard. Your joy doesn't come from the beard; it comes from Jesus. We're having all sorts of great ideas
with
this
the stripe.
episode.
Yeah,
it's iconic. It's iconic. The stripe is iconic.
You don't know if you don't know what we're talking about. Watch the video; you'll see.
You don't even have to watch the video. It's probably visible in the thumbnail too. But we're going to move on to the last week of Advent and the final candle, the love candle. And it is again back to whatever the color of the first two was. So it's.
I would like to reject the premise of how you pronounced love there.
I'm fine with that. I can accept that rejection.
Thank you.
It symbolizes love, reflecting the love that God has for humanity. It's the angel's candle, which it's for me, the angels and the shepherds, I think like that's the same narrative arc.
I think so it's more of a reference to like, because oftentimes the readings for that Sunday are the angels appearing to Mary and Joseph separately, announcing the birth of the child.
Oh, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Not the angels in the field?
Not necessarily, no.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I do have a question for you.
I don't know for sure, but I've always interpreted it more as like an association with.
Well, and all of this is tradition, right? None of this is like biblically mandated. So
yeah.
Question for you, Ben, because you're more of a history tradition guy than I am.
Sure.
Do you know why the third candle's a different color?
Yeah, there's something to do with like what's being celebrated that day, because there's also a week in Lent where you can use the color rose for your vestments and paraments. And I can't remember exactly what it has to do with, but it's the same theme for both Sundays. And I think it's supposed to be kind of a like a reprieve in the midst of a penitential season. That you get kind of a little bit of a break and a little bit brighter day.
It's a midweek. It's midway. It's the midpoint, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. You get a little break in the middle of the penitential season because like joy is a very bright theme for a penitential season, and the midpoint of Lent is oftentimes one of the stories about Jesus sitting with his disciples and giving them like a picture of heaven, or something about what's coming beyond his sacrifice for the world, not just like the doom and gloom of I must go to the cross, because there's a lot of that. But
yeah. So those are the 4 weeks of Advent. And then you have Christmas Eve, which is technically part of Advent. Again, go to church on Christmas, because Christmas Eve is not a Christmas. It's Advent.
Though you do get to break out the white paraments for that. So
Indeed.
technically it's a high feast day.
You're a high feast day.
Aw. Thanks.
The feast of Saint Benjamin. It involves rooting for a losing team.
Yeah. The patron saint of bad sports teams. I would take that.
Yeah.
If I ever become canonized in the Catholic Church, I wouldn't pray to me for like assistance with your team winning. What you could pray for is like
the downfall of other teams,
grief, as you reckon with
you pray to Saint Benjamin when you're not saying that you should pray to saints, but you pray to Saint Benjamin when your team loses the Super Bowl.
Inevitably,
not when they win.
Inevitably, yeah. When your hopes have been crushed for the 45th time in your life. Yeah.
Classic.
Again, we reject prayer to saints. But if
you were to pray to Saint Benjamin,
that's what it's about, yeah.
Anyway, so that's Advent in a nutshell. It's a time of anticipation. Hopefully, it gives you moments of peace in an otherwise very busy time of year. Just to kind of keep you guys up to date where we're at. The next episode will be about Christmas Eve. So we'll take some separate time and talk about Christmas Eve, some of the traditions and everything that comes along with that. And then we will talk about Christmas Day, and then we will talk about New Year's, and then we will start season 9. And that, I think, is the plan. But we reserve the right to do something different if we feel like it, because you can't tell us what to do.
And all of our best laid plans might get interrupted by a baby at some point. So if we just disappear and go cold, that probably happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations to Ben and Krista.
Not yet.
I mean, on the horizon. Anyway, enjoy your Advent season, folks. Enjoy decorating for Christmas and seeing all the lights and everything else. And if you live in my neighborhood, which I don't think we have any listeners that live in my neighborhood, I do have dreams of one day, like everyone on a block going together and getting the same kind of smart lights, so you could link them all and have like a neighborhood wide, which I know there are neighborhoods that do that, but I would love to help organize that. So let's make it happen. Not this year, though. I ain't got time for that this year. Maybe once I retire. Yeah. All right. Hopefully this episode was good and you understand Advent a little bit better. It's been a pleasure. Brothers and sisters, go in peace. Serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thank you for listening in to this episode of Cross-Checking, a ministry of Hope and Good Shepherd Lutheran Churches, where we strive to deepen your understanding of the faith and help apply it to daily life. If this podcast is helpful to you, rate the podcast, subscribe to us on your favorite platform, and share it with others who might also gain something from it.